Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, your soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now.
Why does something you know shouldn't affect you anymore still change how you feel? Why is it that something that you thought you were moved through, you've gone through, but something happens and it does affect how you're feeling? And you think you've already worked through the situation, the person, the circumstance that you might find yourself in. And you've thought about it, you prayed about it, you tried to understand it. And in many ways, you have grown. And you don't react the same way. You see more clearly than you used to. And yet, there are moments when something small brings it back. And you feel it again. Quieter, but still there. Hi, I'm back with a different but related key to soul progress. And that is, why does this still have power over me? And today, we're diving into why certain experiences still influence you even after awareness, which I talked about in the last episode. And how to move into a deeper level of spiritual growth with inner authority. So you can walk away with a better grounding in discernment and inner freedom. Because here's the truth. This is not about spiritual completion. This is about spiritual progress. And there is a difference. Completion suggests something is finished, done. But with soul evolution, soul progress, the soul is never quite finished, quote unquote, because the soul's role on planet Earth is to evolve, to grow, to put one step in front of the other and keep on moving forward to a higher elevation of awareness, a higher elevation of consciousness and discernment, and being able to integrate information in a different way than you were maybe a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, or a decade ago. So it is the soul's distinct purpose of being here on planet Earth is to expand in awareness, to refine its nature, to respond from higher understanding. When something still has power over you, it's not failure. It is revealing where your consciousness has not yet fully risen above the experience. And I think there's different dimensions to certain experiences that we go through, and they may be thematic, and we're going through them, and we see them from the north end, we see them from the south end, we see them from the east and the west sides of things. Each has a different perspective, giving us an opportunity to continue to evolve. So I was thinking about this. Let me know what you think about the word I like to use. And I think that many people remain in what I want to call a holding pattern. You know, when you're flying and all the gates are full and your flight came a little bit early, and they put you in a holding pattern. You're just circling and circling until that gate opens so that the pilot can land and you can get off the plane. Well, I think there's also some whole state that it's important for you to be aware of. And the H of hold is held in awareness, but not transformed. So you've got the awareness about something, but you may not have entirely embodied what you need to embody in regarding to that certain theme or pattern or situation that arises. The O, a hold, is occupying your inner life. That you may have been able to clear some of the static of your inner life, but it's still a subtle degree of energy that's still there, that's maybe beneath the level of consciousness, but it still kind of rears its head at times. And the L is for limiting your peace and clarity. So then we don't realize sometimes that this residual stuff that we're holding on to does limit our inner clarity and don't quite realize why we're feeling the way we're feeling. Or we're not having that true inner peace that we really want. But it's not quite settled in the level of peace that you would like, especially if you're walking a spiritual path. And the D is delaying your soul's evolution. That we don't realize that even this low-grade static that takes place within us, that we think we've moved past it, but we're still catching our garment on the nail. It's still impacting us in some ways. The soul has sensitivities, as you've heard me talk about. And in those sensitivities, it knows you've gotten much better, but there's still a little stuff left here that still needs to be rectified and dealt with. I invite you to move into what I call now from the hold, H.O.L.D, into the flow, F.L.O.W. And so the flow would be, and keep this in mind when you're going through different experiences and different levels of experiences. The F is face it with awareness. I've been here before. I noticed that this is still bothering me. Not to the same degree. It's not like a 9 on the Richter scale, but it is a 4, not 3. It's still there. And what we want if we're walking a spiritual path is clear the deck. Not have any of the energy there whatsoever. So the L is learn the deeper lesson. What is it that I'm supposed to see that I'm not seeing in regards to this lesson? Why is this still here, occupying space within me, this uncomfortability, this low-grade tension, this angst that's taken place? And the O is open to higher understanding. We need to be conscious and more intentional and ask, God, show me, reveal to me, help me to understand, why is this energy still occupying space within me? What is it that I'm doing unknowingly to me sometimes that I need to be able to have a course correction around? When we start to pray and we start to ask about it, then we have to be willing to have the answer when it comes to us. And it can come in if an ant comes to us and tells us this is what's going on, which may be an adversary or somebody you don't get along with, but they reveal something to you that helps you to say, oh, I see now why I'm still carrying some of this stuff and what I need to do now. That becomes really helpful. You need to be open. God works in mysterious ways. He will use all situations to help us to continue to grow and advance if we're asking for that. Therefore, we have to be open to that. And the W is walk forward differently. Walk forward in a different pace, in a different way, in a different awareness, and be intentional about how you're walking forward. Because when we are taking steps to move in a different way, that we know this energy coming up within us is creating that static, as I said before, and we're not liking it, what did we do about it? Did we just let it sit on us? Or to pray? Or to read something spiritually? Or to sing a hymn that helps us to lift the energy and ask God to transmute this energy that is within us? We no longer want it to occupy space within us. We no longer want it to feel as if it's dragging us down. If we don't take command and that inner authority of the Christ that exists within us, then who will? This is what the higher teaching is pointing to. It's not related to suppression. It's not avoidance. It's not overanalysis, but transformation through awareness aligned with truth and be willing to see the truth. You're going to hear me talk about this often because the thing that's sometimes missing for us is we don't want to see the truth. We want it sugar-coated. We don't want to see it as it is. But if you're truly on a path of wanting to be your best self, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, then we have to be willing because God only knows truth. It doesn't know these other side things that delude us or are not quite accurate, not quite on the mark. God gives us the truth. Are we willing to see it? And we have to say, yes, I am willing. And if we're fearful, then we have to be able to say, God, help thou my unbelief. I'm not sure if I want to see all this, but help me. Give it to me in pieces, but give it to me because that's how I will grow. So let's go deeper into a question. Why does this still have power over me? Let's get back into that question. It is not because the moment is strong. It is because something within you is still in agreement with it. And that agreement may sound like, this means something about me, or this could happen again, or I need to protect myself. Or another is, this isn't resolved yet. And from a higher spiritual understanding, whatever you continue to give agreement to retains influence in your world, in your inner world, in your outer world. And the spiritual teachings remind us when we're walking that spiritual path, you are not bound by the event, by the person, by the situation. You are influenced by the meaning you continue to give to it. And this is where evolution, soul progress begins. Not when the experience disappears, but when your relationship to the experience changes. And let me give you some examples. We've been talking about in previous episodes, and we'll continue to talk about Rebecca, who feels the shift in her partner again. And before, this would have led to assumption and reaction. Now she pauses. But here is the deeper evolution. She asks, why does this still have power over me? And what she discovers is profound. It is not about him. It's about her fear of emotional disconnection. And so the spiritual lesson that Rebecca is learning is simply to move from emotional dependency into inner stability. From a higher spiritual perspective, love is not meant to create fear. Love is meant to refine your capacity to trust, patience, to have inner grounding. And you get past the outer accoutrements of the person who can sometimes make us feel bad about what they have said to us or whatever. But what we're trying to do is be grounded in what we know love to be, what love truly is. And I did an episode in the past on love. Go back and listen to that because, as I said, love is meant to refine your capacity for trust, patience, and that inner grounding in something greater than yourself and your Creator, and understand the soul's connection to the Christ, and being able to know that you're going to be able to handle whatever situation comes before you in your relationship, at work, or even in your personal expectations that you have of yourself. Because if she does not learn, that is Rebecca, from what is occurring in her world, she will continue to seek security outside herself. And what we're learning as women, and men too, is love has the capacity to trust your inner self first, your guidance from within, and then hold that immaculate view for the person in the relationship that you're in. It allows you to be more patient. Take a breath in, breathe out, ask God's love to envelop you, to envelop the conversation that you're having with that loved one, and be grounded in the awareness of your values. Be grounded in the awareness of what you are trying to aspire to be more like, to embody. And this matters so much because if she does not learn this, she will continue to seek security outside herself. And every relationship will trigger the same pattern. Think about it. In your life, you are in a different relationship, but something triggered and the same patterns start to come up again. Why is that? God is trying to teach us something. Help us to see these patterns so we can do something about the patterns. And when Rebecca learns this, she begins to embody a higher truth. And that her peace is not dependent on another person's momentary behavior. What higher teachings, spiritual teachings, are trying to teach us all is that you are not here to control the outer. You are here to master the inner response, your inner reactions. And through that mastery, how you're thinking, how you're feeling, how you're perceiving, how you're inviting the Lord to come and step into your heart and mind to guide, aid, and direct you, you become clear expression of love, not a reactive version of it. Now let's talk about it from a different angle. Let's talk about David that we've been talking about periodically as well. He receives feedback again, but this time, instead of reacting, he questions the power it holds. And he says to himself, why does this still affect me? And he's reflecting, pondering, and he sees it. He has tied his worth to performance. If I perform well, then I'm worthy. But the spiritual lesson that David is learning through his work is to separate who he is from what he does. This is a profound level of truth and growth because many live their entire lives without seeing this. Why this matters in soul growth? We have to be aware of the fact that if he continues identifying with performance as his identity, he will always feel pressure, always feel evaluated, always feel like he is not enough. But when he learns this lesson, life is always giving us lessons. And if we can see it from that lens, then it becomes exciting. It becomes enriching. And when he is able to learn the lesson, he becomes free to grow without fear. And it's the higher teaching that emphasizes, the spiritual teaching that emphasizes that you are not your outer role. You are an expression of divine wisdom, divine intelligence. You're embodying that. When we say we walk a spiritual path, where do we put our attention? Are we reading things that are spiritual? Are we thinking about things that are enlightening to us, that gives us a greater understanding, reading books or seeing even movies that are inspiring, that allows us to think in a higher way, that uplifts the consciousness and not pull it down? Your work is like a channel, not your identity. It's a channel of light, peace, giving, learning, growing. It's a channel, a flow of energy that you're giving in service, that you're giving in order to help someone else maybe in a particular way on a project, for example. It is not, your work is not your identity. It is an outpicturing of who you are. It is not who you are. And when you understand this, you engage in your work with excellence, but without bondage. Now let's talk about Claire. And she reflects on her past. This is just kind of another way of giving you different examples of how this outpictures itself when we're looking at why does this still feel unfinished? Because there's still components of the experience that we were able to deal with that we also had put to the side, whether we're aware or not, that maybe moved into the unconscious level or subconscious levels of ourselves, but it's still there percolating and maybe just waiting for an opportunity to come back up to see where you're at and what you're going to do with this piece of things now, because we couldn't all deal with it all at once. So let's get back to Claire. Claire reflects on her past, but instead of regret, she begins to ask a different question. She may not have done things the way that she would have wanted them done in the past, or she made some errors or mistakes, or she said things that were out of order. Whatever that past was, she moves away from regret, and she begins to be able to think from a different vantage point. And that is, what does this teach me? What does this teach me? Claire is aware that every experience that she goes through is teaching her something. Whether she wants to partake of that lesson or not, but it is trying to do something. And what is usually the lessons we're trying to do in our life is to transform the memory into wisdom, not to relive it, not to judge it, but to elevate it into understanding. And if she stays in regret, she remains emotionally tied to the past. And that's what we sometimes forget about. That old experience that's coming up now, and we're reacting or we're feeling regretful about it, we just tied ourselves back to the past. And what we want to do is move forward, understand it, transmute it. When she gains wisdom from that emotional experience, she is no longer bound to it. What we learn is that the past is not meant to imprison you, me, or Claire. It is meant to instruct you. And when instruction is received, the emotional charge begins to dissolve even more. This is not completion. This is progress. This is evolution of consciousness. It's moving forward. It's allowing us to understand that life is for growing. Life is for living. Life is for enjoying. Be aware that there may be unfinished pieces that come up for us, and not to move into regretville, but move into curiosity. Move into, Lord, you're giving this to my awareness to transmute it, to change it, to evolve from it, to see where I'm at, because God has a right to test us in many different ways. And we have a right to be able to say, yea, Lord, keep it coming. I want to learn. I want to continue to advance. I want to continue to expand my consciousness so that I can be my best self. This is evolution of consciousness. And so now we come back to the question, why does this still have power over me? And the answer becomes clearer. Because something within you has not yet been elevated, not judged, not suppressed, but elevated. And elevation happens when you see clearly, understand deeply, choose differently. This is flow. Face it. Learn from it. Open to higher truth, higher awareness, being inspired by your soul that is tied and toggled to your Christ self, to have the better sense of, oh, I understand. and then to walk forward transformed. It's like shaking off the old dust from your feet or your shoes and moving forward with a new awareness, a new understanding, a new excitement about who you are. Here is something to think about. What still has power over you? Not because it is happening, but because something within you has not yet been transformed by it. And what might begin to change if you allowed that experience to elevate you instead of define you? And when I talk about elevation, it's an elevation in how you think about it, how you react to the new peace that's come up within you, how you ask and invite God's wisdom to come and overshadow you and guide you to the experience. How do you ask for a greater measure of love, of loving the experience instead of dreading the experience? This is all in the process of walking and embodying more of how to transform and move to the next level in spiritual growth and soul progress. Something to think about. Bye for now. And you can find my podcast episodes on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and at Judith, MLA.com.
Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.